This is the Reecie Colbert Show on UrbanView.
America needs Reecie Colbert.
Reecie, the most authoritative, cussing woman I've ever met in my entire life.
Hey y'all, welcome to the Reecie Colbert Show here on SiriusXM UrbanView. Today is Saturday, May 13th, 2023. Happy Mother's Day Eve to all of the mothers, godmommies, grandmamas, great-grandmamas, and all them kind of mamas, all the mamas out there. Happy pre-Mother's Day to you. I hope you are turning up, like I certainly plan to do all weekend. All right. Listen, we have a great show planned for you today, but let me tell you something. When you have a special guest, a distinguished guest, like the one I'm getting ready to bring on in a couple seconds, you do not waste any time, okay? We got Erica Savage Wilson coming up as usual later on in the show, but for now, I am so thrilled. Y'all do not know how excited I am to be introducing my guest for today's Reecie Colbert Show. There have only been 4 Black governors since Reconstruction, and we are joined by one of those governors today. He is the only Black governor serving in the 50 United States of America. He is a dedicated and loving husband and father, a decorated military veteran, a philanthropist, a businessman, and now governor of the great state of Maryland. Please welcome, I am so honored to welcome to the Reecie Colbert Show, the Honorable Governor Wes Moore. Governor, welcome to the show.
Reecie, I'm so happy to be with you. I really am. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. So this is a blessing for me. This is a blessing. It really is. And by the way, congratulations on everything. I'm incredibly proud of everything you are doing. And am I tripping? I've already ordered it. It's ready. It's going to be the next party game we got going. I'm so super excited for it. But I'm also proud of you as an entrepreneur.
Yes.
As someone who's going after it. Mm-hmm. And it's someone who understands that, like entrepreneur, there's this necessary risk taking that is involved in it. And I was an entrepreneur before I ran for office. And watching you win makes me so happy. And so congratulations on all. Sincerely, it's beautiful.
Thank you, Governor. Y'all can't see me, but I'm just like having a moment right now. And I was going to go a different way to start, but actually, when you bring up me being an entrepreneur, I have to start here. One of the things that you have done as governor is really put a lot of focus and emphasis behind these small business owners in Maryland. A lot of people don't know this. I'm actually based in Maryland. I have DC because people be too crazy on and people doxing me, but I am a resident of Maryland. You met my husband. He's a commissioner in our town. And so I'm one of these. Yeah, he's fabulous, right? So I am one of these entrepreneurs that your policies are going to continue to help. So talk a little bit about not only just how you're really saying that Maryland is open, not in like a cheeky way, but in an actual real legitimate way, not just for big business, but for small business as well.
And small businesses, I mean, that's the heartbeat, right? That's really the economic driver. And, and when people would say to me, they're like, and we campaigned for 2 years running for governor, and people would say, it's really hard to build a business in the state of Maryland. And my answer always was, I'm a small business owner myself. So it's like, I know I had to build one. And it's unnecessary for people to build businesses in the state of Maryland. It's the reason why that, right now in 2002, Maryland was 43rd in economic competitiveness around the country. That over the past decade, GDP for the nation has grown 23%. Maryland has grown by 11. And so Maryland has continued to fall behind when it comes to economic competitiveness, because we can't just make open for business a slogan. You got to do the work. You got to do what's necessary in order for that to be real. Right. And that's why I'm really proud of the fact that, when we said the North Star for our campaign and the North Star for our administration, this is going to be about work, wages, and wealth. Work, wages, wealth. And how are we creating pathways for all three? And not just jobs. I'm talking wealth. generational wealth that we can actually pass off from generation to generation. You have a chance to pass something off to your children besides debt. And so that's why in our first 100 days, we focus on things like increasing liquidity to small business. We focus on things like actually we pass something called the Access to Banking Act, one of the 10 bills that I introduced, that says, we have to increase access for banks to be able to incentivize them to be able to invest in low and moderate income communities, to be able to support women entrepreneurs, minority entrepreneurs, veteran entrepreneurs, and also making sure we're addressing things like the disparity in contracting, where in the state of Maryland, for example, there's a 29% goal that we have for MBE businesses and minority business enterprises to have for government contracting. The state of Maryland has never come close to hitting that number.
Right.
No consequences. And so we've been very intentional that in order for our state to grow, it means we got to have economic competitiveness and economic inclusion. And that means really starting off with our small businesses. And so that's why businesses like yours are the things that we're going to push, because you are going to be the economic engine that the state needs in order to compete.
Yeah. And, I want to stay on this topic a little bit longer because we're talking about the economic engine, and you have launched a couple initiatives. One is an executive order establishing the Maryland Council on Innovation and Impact, as well as signing into law the Innovation Economy Infrastructure Act. But I will say, right now, innovation is it's kind of becoming a little bit of a boogeyman when we're talking about things like AI, and there's a lot of anxiety and doom and gloom about kind of going into the future and the next wave of what we're going to be expecting. Can you talk about what these initiatives will do to not just have innovation be a big part of the economy, but not leave people behind who could potentially are worried about being replaced by GPT?
No, it's right. And I think the concerns that people have, they are real. And the thing that I think we want people to know is this technology is here. This technology it's moving fast and it's growing fast. And we have to make sure that we both are doing a better job of being able to both understand it, control its growth, and at the same time, though, making sure, as you said, that we're not introducing things that are just going to leave more and more people further and further behind. Because that's the way oftentimes this happens, right? You watch new innovations and new technologies and new industries build. And whether we're talking about everything from cannabis to sports betting and crypto and all these other things we've heard before about new technologies and new industries. And you know what's happened during that same period of time? We've watched things like the racial wealth gap grow because we weren't intentional. And we allow these things to happen, allow these things to grow, but we're not intentional about making sure that growth is inclusive. And so really what we've been able to do here in the state of Maryland in just the first 100 days is be able to say, yes, we are going to invest in innovative technologies. We're going to invest in everything from, solar and offshore wind. We are going to invest in things like in things like AI and how we're thinking about cloud computing and all these other innovative technologies, military technologies, cyber, all these type of things. That Maryland is going to play a leadership role in this, and because we have assets that allow us to. However, we're going to be incredibly intentional and incredibly thorough and incredibly accountable about what does it mean to have everything from job reskilling and job retraining, about being able to focus an educational sector that is teaching our young people how not just to be employees, but how to be employers, and not just to be, work for people, but actually creating your own enterprises inside of these new innovative spaces. And also then inviting and incentivizing people to be able to invest in communities that have been historically left behind inside this process. And the executive order that we pulled together that we're excited about is really saying that this is not just going to be about how you think about an all government approach to this stuff. This is how we think about an all society approach. And so it's bringing in the private sector. It's bringing in philanthropy. It's bringing in community activists. It's bringing in social organizations. It's bringing in the people. That everything we do means we have to move together in order for this work to be real and in order for this work to benefit everybody and not just some.
Absolutely. It's so important that all of the stakeholders have a seat at the table so that those different perspectives, we talk about diversity of perspectives and experiences, are represented in the kinds of solutions that are being put out there. So I want to talk a little bit about governance, right, itself. I don't get to talk to governors too often. So I want to talk about governance. You know, you ran not obviously as a politician. This is your first elected office, which is like swinging, for the sky. But you know what? Yes, we can. Okay. And you ran. You were included in my second book that I wrote about the midterms. You and the other person I'm not even gonna name, and you had really bold and progressive, ambitious proposals. Since you've been governor, you've signed over 200 bills into law. And from what I understand, you have been far more active in terms of the actual legislative sessions than your predecessor. So can you talk about the actual act of getting things across the finish line, particularly as a governor?
I love that question. And it's funny because people said to me, they're like, what made you want to get into politics? And I said, I didn't. I wanted to be governor.
Yes.
A very unique role where it's like, I'm not interested in sitting there and debating with people about whether or not we should hit a death sentence. I'm not interested in sitting there saying, well, I pushed for this or I advocated for that and nothing actually happens. Right. It's not interesting to me. What's interesting is actually how do we get things done? And I knew that in order to get things done, that meant we had to move differently as a state. We had to be able to engage people differently. And I also knew that, when people said, well, you have a majority inside both the House and the Senate of Democrats. And I'm like, yeah, but the objective isn't just to sit there and say, well, here's what I'm going to ram through legislature. And then, but not get buy-in. I need buy-in. Because if you buy-in, then you're then able to actually make this stuff matter in people's lives, no matter where they call home. And so we're very intentional about reaching out to the lawmakers, members of the House and the Senate, both Republicans and Democrats, and helping to articulate why the bills we are proposing were not just going to be beneficial to some, but they're going to be beneficial to all. And I think it's because of that new sense of collaboration. It's because of the fact that we were able to build, not just the most diverse cabinet in the history of the state of Maryland. I mean, over 50% of our cabinet are women. Around 60% of our cabinet are people of color. I mean, this is unprecedented numbers in the state of Maryland. But the thing we've also been able to prove is that having an eye on equity does not mean compromising excellence.
Yes.
Because it's the most excellent cabinet that this state has ever seen. It just
Period.
Most period, right? So I think it's the reason that we've been able to have such a successful legislative session, because we're also showing we're just moving different. Right? We were able to make the most full-on assault on child poverty that this state has ever seen, and we've gotten that done in 100 days. Like making the child tax credit permanent and making an enhanced earned income tax credit, proven anti-poverty measures and vehicles. That we've been able to give veterans, veterans under 55, the largest tax cut in a generation, incentivizing veterans to stay in the state of Maryland, and have now put our state on the pathway of having free dental and healthcare for our National Guard members, showing that you can't just say thank you for your service and have that not actually mean anything. You know, that we were able to actually invest in innovative technologies, and also make sure that Maryland's now going to be the first state in this country that has a service year option for all high school graduates. And by the way, we got all that done bipartisan. Both Republican and Democratic votes. That takes work. But we had to show that you were willing to do the work. And like I said, man, I'm not here to make points. I'm here to score them. And the only way you're going to score them is if you get out there and go do the work. And that's what I think our administration is continuing to show.
Absolutely. I think it's the proof is in the pudding, right? I mean, these bills have gotten passed, and really everybody does feel good about it from all of the reporting that I've seen and all of the reporting that I've heard firsthand. But one quick question: are my taxes going up?
No, they're not. And see, this is, and it's funny because I would always hear coming in, they're like, oh, this is gonna happen on this, and it's gonna be, tax gonna rise, and police are going to get thrown out. It's like, okay, here we go with the dog whistle. Right. But then when people look at our actual policies, and I'm so glad you said this, Reece, because I'm really proud of the fact that we put together an incredibly bold and ambitious agenda. And also we show that you can be bold without being reckless. Not only did we not raise taxes, that the state of Maryland just got a $200 million tax cut.
Oh, Okay, then.
It's like, so all the narrative about, oh, this is going to happen and everything, it's like, come on, y'all. Like, listen, I understand the talking points and I understand how, you can have talking points coming from a larger Republican Party. I get it. But look at the numbers, right? The numbers don't lie. Check the scoreboard on. Scoreboard is very clear that we were able to have a bold and ambitious agenda that leaves no one behind, and at the same time have $200 million of tax cuts for Marylanders. That's
$200 million. Yes, I could use a tax cut. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm telling you. But Democrats, obviously, a lot of times people don't want to give Democrats the trifecta because they feel like, oh, we need a Republican governor to be a check on the House and the legislature because they're going to tax and spend. So I'm so glad you are disproving that, and particularly my paycheck, thanks to you. Okay. But the last thing I want to ask you about is you said a word several times that I think is so key, which is engagement. And I think that not only have you shown the importance of engaging with legislatures and different stakeholders, but I think that you have really been exceptional in engaging with the community. I think that was something that stood out during your campaign. I have to say, I sounded very smart when I predicted you were going to win the primaries the day before on WHUR. And one of the things that I point out is I'm like, I'm gonna say Wes Moore because you weren't governor at the time, but Wes Moore be outside. He's outside. He's kissing babies and shaking hands. He's in Prince George's County. He's all over, up and down the state. And I'm so happy to see that not only just you, Governor, but also First Lady Dawn Moore. Shout out to her. She's so fabulous and wonderful and brilliant at that. But both of you have been so present in various communities. You visited a rural area that hasn't seen a governor's presence since for decades, and in that case it was an emergency. So you're not waiting for catastrophe to happen to really get out there in those communities. To me, it doesn't feel transactional. I've met you several times, and each time you have come across incredibly sincere. And I meet a lot of politicians, and I've met presidents and vice presidents, and there isn't even a hint of like, okay, I'm gonna do this and then get me out of here. Not a hint. And so do you enjoy this part of doing the job and meeting the people? And how important is that in terms of long-term getting buy-in from the state of Maryland and the greater community for what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's important because it isn't transactional for me. Like, this is personal.
Yeah.
Like I don't, and as you know, I mean, I didn't come from a political family. I don't come from a political lineage. I never run for office before. My power comes from the people. And the only reason that I'm here right now, it wasn't because the establishment picked me. It wasn't because elected officials or people said, they tapped me on the shoulder and said, it's your turn now to be the next governor. The people who I've known and interacted with my whole life, the neighborhoods and the communities that I've come from, the people who said, what you're talking about is not traditional politics. It's just, how do you come up with common sense solutions that are actually helping and advancing people from where they are to where they aspire to be? And so it's something that I know it's what fuels me. It's what roots me. I know, and I'm proud of the fact that, I come from an immigrant single mother who raised 3 kids on her own. Right. I know, I'm proud of the fact that I'm the grandson of the first Black minister in the history of the Dutch Reformed Church, and someone who was literally, when he was young, that his family was run out. My family, my great grandfather was run out of this country by the Ku Klux Klan. And I also know that while both of those two things are true, what is also true is now as the 63rd governor of this state, that the only way that happens, the only way that type of journey and trajectory happens is if you are powered by the people. And so I am very clear about the reason that we are out there is that's where the best ideas come from. That's where the fuel and motivation comes from. That's where the innovations are coming from, that the people who are closest to the challenge are the ones who are closest to the solutions. And if you want to get to solutions, stay close to the people. And so that's how we decided to run our campaign. And that's how I've decided to run our administration. and we're not changing. This is who I am, and this is how we're going to move.
I know that's right, Governor. Keep that energy, because that's what we really need. I really believe that is such an important factor. You can't fake it. And it's missing in a lot of what we see nationally in different communities. And I think that if we get more folks like you and we keep folks like you in these power positions, I think we'll see a lot more people participating in politics.
And I love that you said, and honestly, it's like, I think that's the counsel that, when people say like, well, I'm thinking about running for office, I'm thinking about, doing X, Y, and Z, what do you suggest? And I told him, I was like, you need to, make sure you find the thing that makes your heart beat a little bit faster and work on that issue. Because when people would say to me, when I was talking about running for office, like, well, but who's your base? Who's your base? Because they're thinking about it in very consultant kind of, political frameworks. Who's your base? And I'm like, my base is the people. That's my base. That's who I've been working with all these years. And so, you don't have to fall or conscribe into the traditional political speak or the traditional lanes that people say, well, you need to get this demographic, you need to get this demographic, you need to go after this group. My answer was, when people said to me, well, who do you need to get to win? My answer was easy. Everybody. Will win.
And look, the receipts are receipting right now. Okay. When you win, you get to talk your stuff, Governor. Okay.
That's it.
Well, Governor, it has been everything I hoped it would be. It's been such a pleasure. You are always welcome to come back on the Reecie Colbert Show.
Careful what you say. Careful what you say, because I'm your regular.
Okay, I know that's right. And please give First Lady my love and my regards.
I will. And I so appreciate you saying that. And listen, and please give the First Gentleman my regards as well. And to everybody out there listening, go get Am I Tripping?
Yes, go get Am I Tripping? Thank you so much, Governor.
Bless you. Thank you.